Ahoy. I hope you're doing well. Just want to pop in here and uh, talk a little addiction and recovery and relapse because I almost relapsed the other day. Just going to say it straight out. Having a situation with my insurance and was not able to pick up my medication. I've been on Suboxone for a while. For those who don't know, it's like a opiate maintenance drug, somewhat like methadone. So take that to you know keep me away from going back to the streets and using dope. Ran into a situation and wasn't able to pick up my prescription on Thursday. Even though I was willing to pay out of pocket, for some reason that they were saying that was not an option. So reached out to my doctors. Again, this was last Thursday. Today's Monday. Let them know. They said they were going to get back to me the next day. Never heard from them. Times I called, didn't pick up or return my calls. So that was Friday. So I got in panic mode, and I think feeling like was kind of just left hanging allowed me to find and make an excuse to go to make the decision to go pick up some heroin. And I hesitate to call it heroin because it's not really heroin anymore, but people are it's just actually fentanyl and xylazine more often than not these days. And but that's not the point of this talk. The point of this is one, just sharing this to more or less tell on myself and express one of my many frustrations and the reasons I hold a not great opinion of our Western medical system in the pharmaceutical industry and living a life where you put yourself in a position to have to rely on these systems and medications because things can go wrong and shit happens. So I had made the decision. I went and took out money on Friday. I'm like, frick, dude. I'm whatever. Guess I'm going to get some dope and grab a few bundles. And it's been, I think, at least like 6 months since I last had a relapse. I try not to keep track of that stuff because I used to focus on my clean date. And then when you almost inevitably have a relapse, it's so much more disappointing. So I don't think that's the most important thing to focus on in recovery, but that's just my opinion and experience. So I engaged, went, took money out, and historically for me in my addiction, when I've engaged that thought, I'm going to allow myself to go pick up, it's almost impossible to turn around, change your mind, and get yourself out of that. It's like you become a passenger in your own mind and body to your addiction. It's not an excuse, but that's just experientially what it's like. And how I often try to relate it and describe to people. Because, you're like, for example, the whole time I'm walking down there, I know it's the worst thing I could do, but also I'm, was nearly out of my medication. And to go without taking my medication is actually debilitating. You experience withdrawals, which like I wouldn't be able to go to work. So, I was, the reason I was going to go get dope is to get through and get by. But so anyways, I'm down there. I'm in the hood for a while, walking by all the old spots, looking to see if someone's open for business. Because it's been a while since I've been down there. I don't keep connects and contacts in my phone. The way it works more often is you just walk down the block and you eventually learn who the people are, what to look for. So I'm walking around for probably at least a half hour down there, with like $200 in my pocket, and the whole time too, I'm like battling in my mind, like, dude, don't do this. Like, you still have enough medication if you stretch it to try and get through to the week to Monday to hopefully figure this out. And I'm walking around, not seeing anybody. And then again, probably a half hour went by, and I finally see two dudes who were clearly open for business. But one of them, I swear, he had his jeans were like down to his knees, at his knees, and he's all hunched over and shit. And I'm like, there. It just in my mind, I'm like, that's who you're gonna go talk to and throw your clean time away for. You're gonna go deal with that fucking idiot. Pardon my fucking American, but holy shit, dude. Hey, if that's your style, whatever. But that was my deciding factor. It was like, the good voice, the angel on my shoulder, whispering like, "Yo, them ain't your people. You don't want to mix and mingle with that. Like, go deal with this dumbass and buy drugs that are gonna ultimately lead me into a horrible situation and a repetitive cycle of addiction." No, think not. So I know my battery's low. I'm just checking. I'm trying to make this one quick, but I just did like a short version of this. But when I do those, you're trying to compress your whole message into a 1 to 3 minute period, and it's easy to leave stuff out, forget, which I'm probably doing this anyways, because I am trying to, go within a time constraint. But so to be able, again, to the amount of times I've been engaged and I'm going to pick up, and then been able to change my mind, turn around, and not follow through, maybe a handful of times in like 16 years of being addicted to opiates and just using I didn't discriminate against substances mostly. But anyways, I'm trying not to sidetrack and derail. So when I'm like, I'm not going to talk to that dude, those dudes. And it was like in that moment, like that, it was like a weight was lifted from me, and I felt lighter, and I felt back in control. And it was almost like I, had suspended myself in this state of mental engagement, like as a test of sorts. And so I made that decision, but then I was like, while I'm down here, I'm gonna go get some edibles at the dispensary because I'm feeling real stressed right now, and in a weird way, I guess I'm gonna reward myself for not throwing away my sobriety and just putting myself into a situation that I know is not good for me and I didn't need to do. So then I start thinking a little more clearly. I'm like, every time that you have faith and hold on, and hold out, and know that things are gonna work out, somehow, like, things always work out for the best. And I was able to, the following day, I saw a friend, and something along the lines of that did happen. So helped bide me a little more time. And I've still have not got my prescription yet, but I'm waiting to hear back from the pharmacy right now. And it's such, again, this stuff can be very helpful and has helped me. I probably wouldn't be alive if I haven't been on the Suboxone clinic these last few years. So I'm very grateful for it, but at the same time, it's a double-edged sword, because if something happens and I can't get my medication, with many people, many different medications can affect you to various degrees. But if there's no way I'd be able to go to work without my medication. I'd be completely sick. It's not pleasant. It's not pretty. And it's not something you can just push through. You gotta white knuckle your way through opioid withdrawal, especially when you've been dependent upon it for so long. And I've had a few experiences in the past where it's been proven to me that relying on this any medication can put you in some very dangerous situations. I was on Adderall for a couple years. Diagnosed ADHD just when I was like, I don't know, 29 or 30, even though I was fully aware, like, I fell under the I qualified for having ADHD my whole life. My parents just never uh, took me to get checked in on that stuff. And in hindsight, I'm very grateful, because had I been put on Adderall as a kid, wouldn't be where I'm at right now. I would not be me. So I was on that for a couple years, and this was a year and a half ago now. A situation came about where I was accused of selling my medication, and got a call from my psychiatrist that the pharmacy called and blacklisted me from the medication, saying that they had a video of me selling my meds, which I knew wasn't true, but it was a very intense period of my life. I was already dealing with a lot of stuff, and I'd already been 3 weeks without my medication because I kept running into issues with them filling it. And so got completely blacklisted. This medication I'd been on for 2 years, and accused of something felonious, dude. Totally felonious. Which, again, I knew I did not do, but having my reputation and drug history the way I do, this isn't a woe is me, but I'm so conditioned to being stigmatized that I wasn't going to try and fight it, especially in that moment. And because I was already going through so much shit emotionally, I'm like, I'm not even going to put myself at risk of, having the finger pointed even further when I know I'm not in the wrong right now. So many months went by. Well, a few months went by of me coming off the Adderall, just cold turkey. And at the time, I was trying to come off my Suboxone as well, and it was down to like 0.5 milligram a day. And it was so intense coming off the Adderall and everything else I was dealing with. I ended up making the decision to go back up on my Suboxone, which I didn't want to because it felt like I was backtracking, but ultimately I was doing it to help myself. So many months go by. Well, that ended up to me having right after my 33rd birthday. I just gave up. I gave up. Had a relapse. Almost had a year clean at that point. And so much, everything just felt like it was going so wrong, and I just blew all my money on dope. And I was like in the process of getting evicted from where I still live, thankfully. But was ready to, call it quits. Pulled through on that one, thankfully, gratefully, gracefully, graciously. So grateful to still be here. But that's why, so point of me talking about the Adderall, like, and, being put in this situation, which wasn't anything I did. And I later was able to prove that I was not wrong, and I was falsely accused. So once I finally did start asking questions to my therapist, because it was bothering me, because even though I wasn't talking about it, I wasn't letting it go in my head. Once I just needed to feel confident enough to stand up for myself, advocate for myself. So I finally, I was doing my own detective work. I finally asked my therapist, I'm like, what date was this claim made? He looks up the date. Funny, it was the day after I had a situation with this lady I was seeing, and called her out publicly on some really just disgusting, trashy behavior, and didn't go over well. So turns out a little more time went by, kept investigating it. People were like starting to see that I wasn't lying, but nobody really wanted to help me within the medical system because it looked really bad on them. Finally had someone advocate for me, we went into the pharmacy, spoke to someone, ended up being the guy who received the original phone call. And he knew right away, and this was like 6 months later. And he's like, I never saw a videotape, but a woman called in and said she had a videotape. So nobody ever saw a videotape. All it took was making a phone call and an accusation to get me blacklisted from a medication I'd been relying on, which then threw me into a mental spiral where I ended up almost often myself. Um, and you know, I so badly wanted to pursue this even more, but it was enough mental stress, emotional strife. I'm like, I'm just gonna let it go because I probably could have taken this to court. But anyways, beside the point. All to think that all it took was a phone call, an accusation saying there was a video, for them to then reach out to my psychiatrist who never asked to see this footage. Like, had it been someone who doesn't have a drug record or a addiction history, would not have been handled like that. I know it, you know it. Um, so I've been, in situations where it's proven I cannot depend upon these things. And I want to be able to get off this medication, this Suboxone, just to have sovereignty of mind, of self, because I haven't truly been completely sober since I was 13. And so since I've been my brain's fully developed, traumatic head injuries and all, I don't know myself truly without chemical substance dependence of some sort. So um yeah, I really am taking this as a motivation to try to really get off this stuff. But we did not relapse. Thankfully, I'm so grateful. And it was a powerful reminder to know that when you're in the thick of it, you can pull yourself out. We always have the choice. We always have the decision. But we often react emotionally versus responding thoughtfully. So my phone battery's almost done. I hope everyone's well. I just really wanted to share that. Maybe that'll help somebody, and maybe you can relate to. But whatever, I just want to get that off my chest. And remember, we're a lot stronger than we give ourselves credit for. We can tap into things that we don't even know we're capable of. So love yourself, respect yourself, have faith, and know that as long as you're doing the right thing, living in truth, for truth, and for your best interest and for the best interest of everybody, things will always work out. Don't ask me how, because sometimes they work out in the craziest of ways, completely illogical, sometimes even supernatural. Believe it or not. But much love. I love anybody that's following along, checking this stuff out. You mean a lot. This means a lot. And this is only the beginning. This is just the beginning. So much love to everybody. I hope you're having a swell day. I am hopefully going to go get this situation figured out and be good to go.